So, how was 2022 for horror? It was alright. I've heard some talk that 2022 was a terrible year for horror. I don't agree with that sentiment. However, I think that these following movies are responsible. Some of these may not be a surprise to some may disagree, but my goal is to steer you away from these because I do not think they are worth your time or your money. I won't spoil these movies, and these are in no particular order because they are all terrible, but to make sure this vid doesn't go an hour long, I'll just give a brief description of the movie, why it sucks, and where you can watch it. Where you can watch them will be in the description as well. Also, links to my full reviews on some of these movies because I make terrible decisions every day. Just ask these guys.
Oh yes, we have such sights to show you.
Let's get spooky. The Mean One. The Mean One is a murderous Grinch movie about the main character, Cindy, and her dad moving back home to confront some childhood trauma. You'd expect an over-the-top, ridiculous movie with a ton of violence, robotic acting abilities, and dialogue so cringy it would make Tommy Wiseau look like Daniel Day-Lewis. Sounds like a fun time, right?
Why do you disappoint me? Second by second, you waste my time.
The acting and dialogue may be bad, but there were only 2 moments that were over the top to the point it actually made me laugh. The violence is almost always off the screen, and almost none of them are Christmas-like kills, plus almost all the blood is CGI. The movie is in theaters, don't waste your money. My full review is in the link below. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre takes place after the original one. It follows 2 sisters, a business partner, and maybe his wife or something, and I don't know, and doesn't really matter. So they bought some property in this rundown town in Texas and plan to renovate an entire block and have a big food truck event and whatnot. The place they bought out is an old orphanage that houses a certain familiar face. Okay, so the reason why this movie sucks is a few reasons. 1, half of the violence sucks, and everyone was super amped for the infamous bus scene that we all saw in the trailer, which arguably was the main selling point of the movie. Sadly, that's not part of the good half of the violence in this movie. While you're watching it, it's hard to not scream at your TV. Do any of these people even want to live? It's very poorly choreographed, which is a shame. It could have been great. Another reason this movie sucks is because the story doesn't make sense if it's a sequel to the original TCM. The age of the characters, the location, none of it lines up. On top of that, they bring out a legacy character which kind of copies what Halloween was and is doing, but it begs the question of why not make that person your main character, instead of these new characters who pale in comparison of how much we care about a character. Can't go any further than that without spoiling too much. You can watch this on Netflix. Halloween Ends.
You came here to kill me, so do it.
I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming. It's not on the shit list because of any cinematography, violence, or acting reasons. It's here because the story they went with was a horrible idea. Halloween Ends is the finale to the recent revival trilogy of the Halloween franchise that takes place right after the original movie. The final movie in this trilogy isn't even focused on Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. It's about Laurie's granddaughter and her new love interest. I know some people can try to defend this movie by talking about what the director or the writers were going for, and I think on a fundamental level, the idea was terrible. It takes place a few years after Halloween Kills when it should have taken place either the night of Halloween Kills or a few nights after. It focuses on the infectious nature of evil and how it can affect anyone, and puts Michael on the back burner. Laurie's character does a complete 180 that makes 0 sense at this point in the story. It introduces a new character as the main focus, which is a shit idea for the finale of a trilogy. There's no payoff to what the first 2 movies were building up. What an utter waste of something that could have been so much better, especially since so many people had such a bad taste in their mouth after Halloween Kills, including myself. You can watch this on Peacock, any other streaming service, you'd have to pay for it. Choose or die.
Congratulations. You are worthy.
Choose or Die is a video game horror movie. It focuses on a down-on-her-luck girl trying to make some money for her sick mom and her shit apartment. She's friends with this guy who is obsessed with retro tech and is trying to make his own video game. He has a crush on her, but he's a gamer and they don't have the best track record on how to deal with chicks.
I feel as if his glowing light is always protecting me and guiding me and making all my enemies blue and edible. Behold, I am Pac-Man!
She finds an old game at his place that has a cash prize, and they think that maybe it is still winnable. But when she plays the game plays with her life. Okay, so you know how in The Ring, great movie by the way, but in The Ring there is a haunted tape and if you watch it, you die in 7 days. But the story doesn't focus on the tape itself. The story focuses on a sudden death mystery and a search for basically the origin of the tape, like Samara and her history. Now, if you compare the two, the problem with Choose or Die is that all of the focus is on the game itself and offers very little background to who made it, and the story isn't very personal to the character. She's just stuck with the consequences of playing the game. That would be like if The Ring was just about a tape and you got rid of the mysterious death in the beginning, and the history of Samara and what happened to her. If you want to watch a video game horror movie, watch Stay Alive. It's better than this. You can watch Choose or Die on Netflix. Grimcutty. Grimcutty is a horror movie that is more than likely inspired by the Momo phenomenon. Remember Momo? Yeah, so more than likely someone thought about this weird man-pigeon sensation and tried to make a horror movie about it. It focuses on a girl who is in the beginning stages of starting her YouTube channel. All the parents in town hear about this new internet challenge based on this picture of Grimcutty. They hear that it is causing young kids to do stupid, harmful things to themselves, as if something like that would ever actually happen in real life.
I have a Tide Pod right here, right here in my hand. I'm gonna eat it now.
So as all the parents overly freak out about the possible danger of Grimcutty, our main characters track down the history of this picture and the supposedly dangerous challenge. The movie suffers from the same problems of Choose or Die. It focuses too much on the picture and the challenge of Grimcutty instead of something more personal to the character or the villain, so you never really connect to the story. Also, the monster looks terrible, like bad claymation, and the way he moves just looks cheap. You can watch this on Hulu. Flux Gourmet.
Flatulence.
Yes.
Flux Gourmet is about an abstract art performance group being selected to perform at this very famous art institute. And when I say abstract, I mean they perform the most retarded form of art that you can think of. They basically hook microphones to blenders and hot skillets while they cook inedible food. And that's it. Their art is about food, but they don't actually make meals during their performances. It's a horror comedy drama, and the reason why it's on the shit list is because it's not a horror movie. I don't give a fuck what Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, or Google say. There isn't a single moment in this film that tries to scare you, which makes it not a horror movie. The only comedy in this film is a writer who follows the group around documenting everything while complaining about how bad he has to fart for the whole movie. While I'll admit, sometimes made me chuckle, but that's really the only humor in this film. They also did Brienne of Tarth dirty in this film with these scenes with her particular choices of makeup. Now, look at this character from a pretty iconic movie. I don't know why they did this, but someone should be fired or shot. Also, Asha Butterfield, I don't know, is in this movie and in Choose or Die. Yeesh, rough year for you, kid. Oh, and you can watch this on Amazon Prime. My Best Friend's Exorcism.
Abby?
My Best Friend's Exorcism is about Well, exactly that. It focuses on a small group of friends in a very religious school, starring Elsie Fisher, who is also in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Yeesh, you're not having a great year either. This is supposed to be a dark comedy as well, and maybe a teen girl would find this movie more entertaining, but I sure as hell didn't. Mostly because the humor didn't really land for me, which is the only thing going for this film, kind of, because not much happens, it's all pretty tame shit. It doesn't even try to scare you. Some dumb choices in CGI as well, like there are CGI birds and even vomit. Is fake vomit in a tube really that expensive or hard to pull off? You can watch this on Amazon Prime. Morbius.
If you're gonna run, do it now.
I know it's more of a superhero movie, but the main character and villain are vampires, so I thought horror fans would want to know if this has any vampiric redeeming qualities. And nah. Morbius is a living vampire in the Marvel Universe, and I never really liked the idea. Don't get me wrong, I love my vamps, and I love me the first two Blade movies, but I don't like vamps and the superhero universe mixing. Doesn't seem to fit super well. I prefer my old school monsters to be in their own separate genre than seeing a vampire fight along beside Iron Man. Also, he is a living vampire, which inherently makes him a bit lackluster. I prefer my vamps to be anti-heroes at minimum. Yeah. Anyway, the movie focuses on a super genius with a really shitty lifelong disease and his never-ending search for a cure. He follows his latest lead for a cure, but it may come with a price that may not be worth it. The problems with this movie is, first off, the pacing. It's not a very long movie, but the whole thing is bum rushed so fast that I couldn't connect with any of the characters to really get to know them or care about them. From what I remember, the CGI is okay, but because it's PG-13 and vampires have claws, the violence was lackluster. You can watch this on Netflix, anywhere else you'd have to pay for it. And I'm gonna call it here before this vid gets too long. If it does well and y'all want me to steer you away from more shitty movies that came out this year, let me know and I'll do a part 2. Thanks always for watching and stay spooky.